From this particular week, guys, what we have done, we have implemented one more additional feature, that is to give certain mains practice question based on based on the articles that we are going to take. So here, if you see, I have given these particular questions. So you will find it in the document that would be shared with you. So in total, I have given you 10 questions here. So try, first of all, read these particular articles that I am going to explain you here. And once you understand them, once you develop an understanding, then try to write your answers on these particular questions. Okay, that will help you in better understanding how to use an article in the examination. So let's get started. Okay. Now, first article that we are going to take here is India in Global Governance and Leadership within Global South. So basically, guys, you see this thing that actually what has happened, there were multiple articles that were there in the examination which are talking about that how India is emerging as the voice of Global South, how India is emerging as the leader of the developing countries in the world. First of all, uh, uh, just a minute. Yes. First of all, let's understand a few points here. When we talk about Global South, what do you mean by Global South? So Global South is a term that is used to refer to developing countries. It is a term that is used to refer to the developing countries, because majority of developing countries you will found in the southern hemisphere. Now India is projecting it as a leader of the Global South, and even Global South Summit was hosted by India. And in G20 also, India emerged as the voice of the Global South. Now, there are multiple institutions where India is emerging as a rule maker, as a norm follower. India is also suggesting at multiple platforms reforms that are needed to improve the global multilateral order. And in this particular article that I am just going to discuss, what I have done, I have included all the examples as how India is trying to lead the global governance, how India is leading multiple initiatives on the global stage. So very important article, and I believe that a direct question on this particular theme in GS paper number 2 IR might come here. Now you see this particular thing that India is emerging as the voice of global south. Now, one quotation, guys, I have taken here from S. Jaishankar. Now, the quotations this year, even prelims question was asked on the book of Mr. S. Jaishankar. Okay, why Bharat matters. Okay, so one quotation. So, Mr. S. Jaishankar said this thing, that Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problem are world's problem, but the world's problem are not Europe's problem. Europe, Europe's outlook has become very much self-centric, self-serving. And here we need a country which genuinely bothers not about its own national interest, but about the global interest. And here India is emerging in this landscape. First of all, first example is that Prime Minister during the G20 summit that was hosted last year 2023, Prime Minister inaugurated Dakshin. Now, this article is going to be full of examples, and my point is that please ensure that you collect all these particular examples step by step. Please ensure that you collect all these examples step by step. So Prime Minister launched Dakshin. Dakshin stands for Development and Knowledge Sharing Initiative, fine, which also is called as Global South Center for Excellence. Now, what is this Development and Knowledge Sharing Initiative? You see, India has developed a lot of digital public infrastructure. What is this digital public infrastructure? So basically, guys, digital public infrastructure are those platforms which provide the facilities of governance, but through certain applications. Okay. For example, CoWIN platform was there. CoWIN platform was launched for the effective vaccine management. There is Arogya Setu for contact tracing. There is a DigiLocker through which there is DigiLocker. Oh, okay, there is Aadhaar. Aadhaar is virtual digital identity, though right now you have the physical Aadhaar, but it aims to serve as a digital virtual ID. So these are many online digital platforms that India has developed, which are being appreciated around the world. If you take example, India has worked on UPI, Unified Payment Interface, and the ease of online transactions or the digital transaction in India is is unparalleled. It is one of the best in the entire world. So India wants that the countries which have done these innovations, they should share these innovation with the other countries. Dakshin Development and Knowledge Sharing Initiative, where India will share the indigenous technologies, digital public infrastructure with the other countries. Then, if you see, India plays a very important role in lot of these bodies and institutions. Let's understand them in little bit more. Number one, India is actively present in United Nations, and in United Nations, India is talking about the reforms. Number one, we are founding members, and then we are talking about the Security Council reforms. We are talking about giving more democratic representation to the countries of Asia as well as to the Africa. So if you see, Africa is not represented in the in the UNSC. After that, from Asia, if we see, India's representation is not there. South America, Latin America is not adequately presented. So basically, fine, India is talking about the reform in the United Nations. Security Council expansion, India is talking about. Also, when we talk about the United Nations Security Council, recently India got elected to the non-permanent seat. India got elected to the non-permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, and this is not the first time that India got elected. India has already been elected 7 times. Fine. So here, when India got elected in the UNSC non-permanent seat, what India focused on? India focused on counter-terrorism. It focused on sustainable development. So how in United Nations India has played an important role? We can see this. Then after that, we move to the next one. Then in WTO, India is playing an important role. So in WTO, what India is advocating? India is advocating the fair trade practices for the developing countries. Now you see this particular thing, guys, that actually what is happening. You see in WTO, developed countries want the market access. Developed country says to the developing country, you should reduce all the barriers. You should make easy for the global trade. This is the developed countries that are asking. Developing countries, they say that, okay, you listen, we don't have that much market expertise. If we will allow your products to enter in our country, your products will destroy our indigenous manufacturers. Okay. Also, developing countries want certain safeguards. So, developing countries want safeguards. Developed countries want the free market access. This is a dispute between the developed and developing countries that is going on. Then second dispute, developed countries says that remove all the subsidies which are counterproductive to the free trade. Okay, you are giving subsidies and artificially you are influencing the price. Okay, India and developing countries says that no. For example, India gives a lot of subsidies on agriculture products. India says that we are not giving subsidies so that our farmers can sell the product in international market and can influence the price. Our farmer is very poor farmer. Our farmer is marginal farmer. We need to give subsidies. So developing countries, they are giving subsidy to fishermen. They are giving subsidies to farmers. Developed countries call them as trade distortionary. And here India has emerged the voice of global South. Here India has emerged as the voice and the leader of the global South. Okay. Then at IMF and World Bank also. So at IMF and World Bank, India is talking that, you see, first of all, IMF and World Bank, their financing a lot times their financing has been directed towards the Western interest. So their financing now should be going towards the emerging economies also. Then at BRICS. Now guys, you see, first of all, when we talk about the BRICS, so recently there was an expansion that happened in BRICS. And in BRICS also we promote economic cooperation, development financing the projects in the developing countries for the basic necessities. Then after that, SARC and BIMSTEC. Now though SARC is virtually dead because so many years have happened that not a single summit has happened in the SARC. But through BIMSTEC, we aim to promote the regional cooperation. Then after that, India is playing an active role in Indian Ocean Rim Association. And in Indian Ocean Rim Association, we are mobilizing the countries in the Indian Ocean on sustainability, knowledge sharing, protect to safeguard them from terrorism, sustainable development, security. Then there is the Quad. India is playing an important role in Quad also. So in Quad, we have 4 countries: India, US, Japan, and Australia. And Quad talks about the rule-based order. Quad talks about ensuring the infrastructure development in the Indo-Pacific region, fine, containing the regional threats. So piracy is a very big threat in the Indo-Pacific, particularly the Indian Ocean and around the coast of Africa. So we aim to reduce that. Then after that, on climate change, sustainable development, and health security. These are the three most important issues in the 21st century. And here also, India is leading multiple initiatives. For example, on climate change, India is the founding member of International Solar Alliance, which nudges the countries between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, that they should develop majority of their electricity from solar. Okay. Then on sustainable development, India has already committed to UN Sustainable Development Goals. So SDGs, they are 17 goals, and in total 169 targets are embedded in these goals. So India has committed to SDGs, and also India's many national programs we have started in line with the SDG goals. For example, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is integrated with SDGs. Jal Jeevan Mission, fine, which we have brought, which aims to provide the piped drinking water by 2024. It also aims to fulfill the SDG targets. Then next we have is G20. So basically, guys, India is also emerging as a meaningful partner under the G20. India is also emerging as a meaningful partner under the G20. And recently, 2023 G20 was also hosted by India. And in G20, India focused on inclusive growth, digital transformation. Digital solutions should be provided to the developing countries. Sustainable development. Fine. Then, in digital governance also, I told you that India, if you remember, Dakshin initiative we have discussed, where India will provide its digital public infrastructure to the member countries. Then after that, on counter-terrorism, India is the vocal supporter of Convention on International Terrorism. Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. Now, you might find it strange. But you see, this particular thing, that we don't have even a single convention on international terrorism. There are around 13 sectoral conventions that are there on international terrorism, but one comprehensive convention dealing all the aspects of terrorism is not there. Since 1996, India is proposing CCIT, that is the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. Okay, so then CDRI, Coalition for Disaster Resilience of Infrastructure, CDRI. Okay, so just a minute. So CDRI, Coalition for Disaster Resilience of Infrastructure, CDRI. It was launched in 2019, and it aims to promote the resilience of infrastructure in island nations, in vulnerable countries. Now you see this particular thing. For example, there is an island nation. That island nation has only one airstrip. Okay, and through that airstrip, it is connected with the world. Now, if a tsunami comes and if that airstrip is washed away, this country has lost 100% of its infrastructure, aviation infrastructure, because only one strip, if that is lost, you have lost all the connectivity with the world. So India will provide the knowledge, India will provide the technical expertise to such island nations which are vulnerable to these disasters, as how they can safeguard, how they can make their infrastructure resilient. Then there is Life Mission. There is Mission Life. Now, what is Mission Life? We launched this Mission Life in 2021, and it aims to promote sustainable consumption by the people. Now, if you are consuming, and if now see, a lot of carbon footprint is because of the consumption by the consumers. All the time you are demanding fast fashion, all the time you demand a lot of plastic for a lot of things. So it is leading to a lot of carbon emissions. So Life initiative, it aims to promote sustainable consumption by the citizens so that the carbon footprint of the world as a whole declines. It encourages individuals and communities so that they adopt to eco-friendly practices. The next is International Big Cat Alliance. So International Big Cat Alliance is proposed in 2023 to conserve the big cats across the range countries. So tigers, lions, leopards, fine, they will be protected. Then on renewable energy also, we have signed the partnerships, that is Clean Energy Ministerial has been initiated by India, and renewable energy and energy efficiency partnership has been taken up. Digital public goods, already I have discussed with you when I was discussing the COVID and Aadhaar. So these are, guys, all the initiatives. Now, a lot of examples I have given, and even if you can remember 6 out of these, then it will serve the demand of the question that how India is playing the leadership role in global South governance. Okay, moving on. India's changes in criminal justice system. So, guys, if you are following the news, you might be knowing also. Now, this article I took from the Indian Express. So, basically, what happened recently, three criminal law bills that we introduced in order to replace IPC, CRPC, and Indian Evidence Act, they have come in place. Okay, first of all, guys, let's discuss little bit background information. So, basically, what happened? India introduced three new bills, that is भारतीय न्याय संहिता, भारतीय नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता, and भारतीय साक्ष्य अधिनियम. These three bills were introduced to replace Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita would replace IPC, Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Samhita would replace Criminal Procedure Code, and Bharatiya Sakshya Samhita will replace the Indian Evidence Act. Now, when we talk about these particular laws, fine, particularly if we talk about the Indian Penal Code, this particular law was drafted way back in 1860s, and it has a lot of colonial hangover. This particular law had a lot of impinges from the police state that the Britishers tried to create. India is right now not a police state, India is a welfareist state, but it has a lot of impinges from the colonial rule. We want to remove all that. So for this particular thing, what happened? We brought these particular three laws. These three bills, they got passed. And now from 1st of July, they have come in place. Okay. Now, what I have done, guys, here, this entire article I have converted in the tabular manner. What I have done in this particular table, I'll provide you a particular position and its counterpart, its counter. Number one, what I gave you the reason. I gave you the reason that why this particular law bills were introduced in order to decolonize the criminal law in India. I told you that they were passed during the times of the Britishers. So they were brought to decolonize the criminal law. But there are certain concerns. What is the concern? 75% of the provisions. What is the concern? Concern is that 75% of the provisions have been retained from the existing law. So 75% of the laws, now you see this thing. Just the section numbers have changed. Things got reorganized. If it was at this place, you put it this place. If this was, you put it other place. So 75% of the existing provisions, they have been retained. Only 25% things are new. Either they have been dropped, or they have been deleted, or they have been introduced. But 75% provisions are retained from the existing law. Then there is one section 187. It increases police custody from 15 days to 60 or 90 days. Now, guys, often giving enhanced police custody, often it could be used for the political purposes also. For example, in some of a fake case, police can be used as an institution, as an instrument by the ruling government to arrest the political people, politically opposition people. So custody has been, police custody can be given for 60 to 90 days. So it has potential for abuse. The next thing is there are a lot of vague offenses that have been defined. For example, giving false and misleading information, acts which might endanger sovereignty, unity, integrity of India. These are the offenses that have been mentioned. If you see false and misleading information, act endangering sovereignty, what can endanger you? Okay. If let's say there is outside a lot of pollution that is there, that pollution is endangering my health. So this word endangering, and that too such broad things. This should have been dealt with more clearly. It is a very vague definition that has been continued. Then trial in absentia. Trial in absentia. So what is trial in absentia? Suppose there was a person, Mr. X. On this particular Mr. X, there was some kind of a complaint that was filed. Now this Mr. X has absconding. It has run away. This Mr. X is not available. So can you start a trial on that Mr. X even when he is not present? Now it is provided that trial in absentia is allowed. Allows prosecution and adjudication of trials for the absconding offenders. The one who have committed a crime, one who have committed an offense, if they are on the run, on them the case can be started. Now it leads to a problem. It compromises the accused's right to defend themselves. Fine. Now obviously it will have both angles. Some will say that it was a good thing, somebody might criticize it, but yes, criticism is this, that the person, you see, we always say that a person is believed to be, now natural jurisprudence that we follow in India, a person is innocent until proved guilty. Innocent until proved guilty. So if a person is not there and you take up a trial, how that particular person will defend himself? Then a lot of large parts, old parts have been written already, we have seen. Okay. Now, it is provided that section 358 of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita says that IPC will continue for offences under IPC. Fine. But there is a, now you see this particular thing. See, already going cases filed before 1st July, it will continue to apply. It creates a lot of confusion. It creates a lot of dissonance. This is, guys, all about. Fine. The next thing is that institutional readiness. Now we need to see what you have done. We have brought a change at one particular level. Fine, at statutory level, the change has been brought. But are institutions ready to deal with these particular cases? Have you trained police officers that they have complete knowledge about the new 3 laws? Have you trained police officers? Have you trained the magistrates? Fine. Then timelines, basically there are the, fine. So there are the timelines that have been given. Fine. Different timelines have been given in which you should complete your search, teaser, which is a good thing. Fine. Then fundamental institutional reform is also something that is needed to remove that colonial hangover. Fine. So if simply we are going to change the law, and if you not bringing the mindset change, that is not going to help. Okay. Now further, there are some additional things that I want to tell you. Is this particular law might not be helpful if we don't bring the detailed reforms in the police. So police reforms are needed. Now basically what has happened in Prakash Singh case, there were 7 directives that were given. 7 directives that were given by the Supreme Court, and these 7 directives you can use that along with changing the law system. They basically, some other long lasting changes are needed, such as the 7 directives of police reform given by the Supreme Court in Prakash Singh case. Now what are these? Number 1, constitute a state security commission. Fix a 2-year tenure for DGP, so they have a long stable tenure so that they can bring the positive change. 2-year term for SP and SHO, so again they also have a continuity of tenure and can bring the changes. Separate investigation and law and order function. So police is doing both the things simultaneously. Law and order also they are seeing, and they are doing investigation also. So investigation branch should be alag and the law and order branch should be separate. Set up police establishment board to see the police conduct. Then set up police complaints authority and set up national security commission at center level. Fine. So this is something. Then there was also Padmana Bhaiya Committee. It has talked about the 6 weaknesses of Indian police. So if you are writing any question on the police reform, that also you can write what weaknesses they have found in the policing in India. Number 1, delay in the registration of crime. Many number of times FIRs are not being registered. Poor people, particularly from particular religion or caste, they face more. Inappropriate attitude, behavior, and mindset. I told you that still police is being driven by the mindset of colonial times, British elitist mindset. That mindset needs to be changed. Perception of lack of fairness. People have this particular perception that police is actually acting on the behest of some vested interest, either on the interest of politicians police is acting, or police is acting on the behest of the rich people. Actually, that has been observed also at certain times. Recently, Pune car crash case happened, where it was found that how the police was supporting the twisting of the facts and figures. Okay, so it is found that there is lack of fairness and impartiality. Police is used as an instrument by the political parties. Police is used as an instrument by the political parties, social elites. Fine. Now, basically, guys, when we talk about the policing actually happens to be the state subject, and therefore, often the state governments actually have exerted a lot of control on the police officers. Perception of police being serving the political party in power, and corruption. Okay, culture of bribe taking, corruption, culture of compromise prevails a lot in the policing. So these are the major concerns that we have in the policing. So basically, the application of these particular laws might not magically miraculously solve the problem. It has to be followed with the comprehensive reformation of laws. Fine. So I hope, guys, that you have understood it. Okay, now moving on to the next article. Okay, urban flooding and Indian cities. So there were multiple articles that were published on the flooding. So as monsoons have got started, so cities have started to flood, and this is something that is observed every year. Every year, as monsoons are there, rains are coming, one or the other metropolitan city, it is submerged. So with respect to GS paper 3, disaster management, urban flooding, this becomes an important issue. Disaster management, urban flooding, this becomes an important issue. Let's discuss it more. Okay. Uh, First of all, guys, what I have done here, I again have not been restricted only to articles that have been published, but I have went beyond, and I'm trying to cover this entire theme of urban flooding that's there, so that if a question, any type of a question that comes from here, you should be capable to address that. Now you see this particular thing, that when we talk about the urban flooding, so urban flooding leads to many problems. So first of all, consequences or problems of urban flooding that we have. Number one, infrastructural damage. It damages roads, bridges, buildings, residential buildings. Then economic impact. So basically, as offices are shut down, as a transportation is shut down, as the tourist places are shut down, it leads to a lot of revenue loss. Industries are shut down, production is not happening, government revenue will go down. Tourism is not coming, again government's revenue will go down. Fine. Reconstruction costs are there. Fine. Once an infrastructure has been damaged, it needs to be reconstructed, which further leads to a lot of cost. Fine. Then health hazards. So urban flooding leads to a lot of health hazard. What happens? It leads to a lot of waterborne diseases such as malaria, dengue, chikungunya, etc. Basically, mosquitoes, they breed in these particular waters. The next issue that it leads to is that it contaminates the water supply. So water contained in the reservoirs, it contaminates that particular water supply. Then it leads to the human displacement. Many of the people who are living in those localities which are vulnerable to urban flooding, low lying areas, largely there are the low lying areas which are occupied by, obviously there are the encroachments, but who are living in these encroachment, poor people are living. When their houses get destroyed, they got displaced. Now we have multiple case studies here. On the other hand, in this particular table we have multiple case studies. We have a case study of Mumbai 2005, which led to a lot of loss of life and property. ठीक है. Chennai 2015 flooding, again it led to the damage of life and property. Then Kolkata, almost every year some part of the Kolkata is flooded because of the rain. Then Delhi, also it is frequently flooded, overflow of Yamuna river. Recently also a lot of disruption happened in Delhi because of the rains that came recently. Fine. Now, what reforms are needed in urban planning? Now you see, urban flooding is a natural problem, but at the same time it is also a problem because there has not been adequate urban planning that has happened in the past. So there are certain problems. Now reforms are needing in the urban planning, and for that I am going to give you suggestions from the Niti Aayog report. I am going to give you suggestions from the Niti Aayog report. Now first guys, when we talk about the urbanization, there are certain facts with respect to urbanization that you need to know. Now by that you will be understanding that how big urbanization is in India, and urban flooding the scale you will be able to understand. So according to Niti Aayog, India has second largest urban system in the world. Second largest urban system we have in the world. 11% of global urban population. 11% of the global urban population, where it is living? It is living in Indian cities. Fine. At the same time, so a large number of people are living in India. Also, as per Niti Aayog, by 2030, 41% people will live in urban cities in India. Now, these urban cities, they are also important contributor to economy. So, 60% of India's GDP, 16% of India's GDP, it is contributed by urban centers. It is contributed by urban centers. However, during COVID, we found this particular thing that in urban centers, a lot of invisible migrant population is also living, which have not been adequately catered in these urban cities. And we get to know this particular thing when the reverse migration started after the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so it also, then what has happened? When we talk about the urbanization, we always find this particular thing that a quick fix solution approach has been followed rather than dealing with the long-term problem solving. You see, in urban areas, infrastructure is inadequate, sewage management is inadequate, urban drain management is inadequate, urban centers don't provide good transportation, traffic jam is a big problem. And whenever these problems happen, always policy makers are focused on the quick fixes, band-aid approach, rather than going for the long-term solutions. Niti Aayog report has talked about this. Also, Niti Aayog says that urbanization in India is unacknowledged and unaddressed. Unacknowledged and unaddressed. So basically, it provides that urban planning function from states to elected ULBs don't happen. Fine. The next is that one more problem that we have with respect to urbanization is that we have a lot of agencies which are involved in the urban in a lot of subjects in the urban area. Let me give you an example. Now, flooding as a subject, it is seen by the Public Work Department (PWD). It is also seen by the Flood and Irrigation Department. It is seen by the municipalities, municipal corporations. Municipal corporations, if it is an cantonment board area, then cantonment board, army area, containment board also gets involved. So you see, PWD, Flood and Irrigation Department, municipal corporations, all are involved on only one thing, that is the flood management. Because of this overlap, what happens is a diffusion of responsibility happens. A institution will say it is B's responsibility, B will say it is C's responsibility, C will say it is A's responsibility. Diffusion of responsibilities happen. This is one very big problem. 65% of urban settlements in India, they don't have any master plan. They don't have any master plan. And citizen participation, citizen awareness about the urban processes, it is virtually absent. Now, what are the recommendations that can be given in this particular capacity? What are the recommendations that can be given in this particular capacity? Number one, we need to go for the programmatic intervention for planning of healthy cities. You see this thing. We have come out with the different programs. For example, we came with the concept of health city for all by 2020. Life concept was inaugurated in 2021. Now you see, health city for all. means how pollution is to be reduced, how the quality of life is to be improved. Life aims to reduce the carbon emissions, aims to reduce the carbon emissions. Now we need to bring the programs focusing on multiple issue, and that should be addressed in its comprehensiveness, in its holistic nature, in its holistic nature. Then we need to ramp up the human resources. A lot of human resource crunch is there with the municipal corporations. They don't have the desired number of officers, they don't have desired number of personals here. They don't have the desired number of personals. So what's needed here? It's needed that there should be the adequate human resource availability. Then re-engineering of urban governance. Now you see this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the urban governance, municipal corporations, they are working with the age-old rule books. Fine. They are not equipped to deal with the problems in the, basically they don't have the new age solutions for the urban challenges, urban governance. So we need to re-engineer the urban governance. We need to build the institutional capacity. We need to bring the multidisciplinary expertise. So for policy making, we need people from health sector, we need people from social sector, we need people from the other sectors also. We need to invite the think tanks to solve the problems. Revision of town and country planning acts is needed. Some places town and country planning acts are very much old. The next is that there is need for collaborative, concerted and cooperative efforts. Okay? Collaboration is needed, concerted efforts on a particular themes is needed, and then we need to implement the new urban agenda. New urban agenda 2016 that was issued. It has given some excellent prescriptions, it has given some excellent advices with respect to improving the condition in urban life. Then next is national infrastructure pipeline. Now you see this particular thing. Under national infrastructure pipeline, 100 lakh crore rupees, 100 lakh crore rupees will be invested in infrastructure. Now, as we have come out with a dedicated project such as the national infrastructure pipeline for infrastructure, we need to have such a kind of an initiative for the urban governance, for the urban area improvement also. Fine. Then the next is that whole of government approach is needed. Now, under the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti initiative, now you see, national infrastructure pipeline, it is sometimes also called as the PM Gati Shakti. PM Gati Shakti. Now, under PM Gati Shakti, what is happening? Multiple ministries and departments which are responsible for giving the clearances, they have come together. So, in the same way, multiple ministries and departments which are responsible for improving the conditions of urban areas, they need to come together. You see this thing. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs is running Smart City. Ministry of Heavy Industries, it is running the FAME scheme for the for EV vehicles. Fine. Then Ministry for Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, it is running the Green City. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, it is working on pollution. Rather than running the separate components, all ministries need to come together and holistically they need to take the initiatives. Holistically, they need to plan the initiatives. Fine. Moving on further. Okay. Then 15th Finance Commission. 15th Finance Commission has recommended that there should be the grants that are to be given. Separate health grants should be there. Performance based grants should be there. The states which are incubating the new cities, they should be given the separate grants. So 15th Finance Commission has said that separate grants should be given to those particular states which have worked adequately in promoting the green cities. The next is that what is needed to be done. So basically, there should be some entry level conditions. Now you see, municipal corporations, they need to be empowered that they can directly compete with for the grants that are being given by the union, that are being suggested by the Finance Commission. So conditions of the municipal corporations need to be improved so that they can compete for seeking the grant at the union level. Set up the state finance commission in the states. Okay, so as we have a Union Finance Commission established under Article 280, so at the level of state finance commission is to be established. Many states are not doing it, and the state finance commission needs to they are constituting it, but it need to give recommendations that how the urban governance funding can be increased. Okay, provision have both provisional and audited accounts online. A lot of corruption also goes in the urban governance, so audited accounts need to be kept forward. And then minimum floor for property tax. Now you see this thing, property tax is one important revenue stream, but it has not been utilized that much. Okay, property tax collection rate in India, they are the lowest in the world as per the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So property tax collection rates are also to be improved. Okay, and then for cities with million plus population, 10 plus population, fine, there are performance grants that are to be provided through Millennium Plus Cities Challenge Fund.